I fought for you. Harding Beesbury, the fucking apple boy, we fought for you. Your prince fought for you against men sworn to protect him. He risked nothing. And the gods don't favor a fraud.
Lionel swayed me, I gotta say.
He's got some pretty strong words there.
Strong points. Welcome to the official Game of Thrones podcast, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I am Jason Concepcion.
And I'm Greta Johnson, and we've entered Dunk's existential crisis era. We're going to talk about it.
Just enjoy the win. We are talking about the sixth and final episode of this season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, The Morrow, written by T. McKell and Ira Parker and directed by Sarah Adina Smith.
Yes, and our guest today is showrunner Ira Parker.
Warning, if you have not watched the finale of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, do that and then come back.
What are you doing here?
Do it.
Watch the finale.
Beg your pardon, Lord. I do. But I think I'm done with princes.
Okay, but Jason, will you tell us what happens in the finale?
Absolutely. To a jaunty jazz score, we open with Lord Lionel just kind of regarding Dunk as Dunk recovers under a tree. It's almost a post-coital vibe from Lord Lionel. I mean, he is enjoying things despite the death of Baelor and others. Lionel offers Duncan a spot at court over in Storm's End, and, I guess is his sworn buddy. And Dunk decides, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do that. Duncan tells Raymond Fossaway that he thinks everyone blames him for Baelor's death, which may or may not be true. Certainly Raymond does not. Dunk then gives Sweetfoot to Raymond Fossaway to live in an orchard and eat apples to her beautiful heart's content. Meanwhile, Maekar suggests that Egg could be Duncan's squire at Summerhall, assuming Dunk agrees to come to Summerhall and complete his training and basically work under the prince's thumb. However, Dunk has some conditions. We're not doing that. Second, we're sleeping in ditches in pools of water as it rains, and we're eating salt beef and living the hardest lifestyle possible. Maekar says, I simply cannot do that. Meanwhile, Egg can see that his hair is growing back, and he realizes now that the dream is over. He's not going to get to live at various tournaments on the road, just having adventures. He's going to have to be back at court, at castle with his mean brother Arion. And so he takes a knife and he sneaks into Arion's room, and he is maybe going to stab him to death. But then he sees that his father is there. And rather than punish his son, Maekar, in a moment of real tenderness and understanding, embraces him, and it's wonderful. Dunk is then leaving Ashford, and as he's leaving, who should run up to him but Egg? And Egg says, guess what?
Dad said yes.
Dad said yes to sleeping in ditches and eating the worst crap.
Let's get out of here
right now, really quick, actually. Right now.
We got to go.
They hit the road, and it all seems wonderful. They're heading to Dorne for some wonderful Dornish adventures. And then we get a quick post-credit scene in which it is revealed that Egg's not telling the truth. He slipped away, and Maekar is yelling, where is Egg? Where is Egg? And that speeds us on our way to season 2, which I can't wait for. But Greta, your thoughts on this finale episode?
I really enjoyed this finale episode. I mean, obviously, a lot of it is the fallout after this huge, horrific fight that everyone's been through.
Fallout.
I feel like they've done such a nice job with this season finale because we get them riding off into the sunset, which is nice and heartwarming. And then we get that extra scene where we realize, oh shit, Egg snuck off. This is not going to be, there's trouble afoot, which is such a great start for season 2.
I can't wait for that. And as George told us when we interviewed him at New York Comic Con, this is his favorite episode of the season. Let's hear that, actually.
George, you have said that episode 6 of this series is your favorite.
Yeah.
What made episode 6 so great to you?
Well, partly it's a matter of anticipation. I can look at stories, be it mine or be other people. And since I've been a television producer and TV writer myself, I can say what would be, to my mind, easy and hard. And when I look at some of these things, I say, boy, okay, that one's easy. I see the whole thing is laid out there. Here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end, here's a great climax, here's a big battle, here's all of that. That's fine. But then you look at other things and you say, wait, how the fuck can you make that? No, sorry.
No, don't apologize. Go on.
How do you make that an episode of television, or how do you make that a motion picture? And when you look at Hedge Knight, there's a huge climax in episode 5, a big climactic battle. And people live and people die and things are resolved. But then there's an entire hour after that, the battle is over. What happens there? And I looked at that and said, I see it. There are scenes that are written. There are emotional scenes. There are good character beats. But a lot of viewers don't like that stuff. You always get, oh, it's too talky. It's too slow. But Ira and his team did, I think, an incredible job with it. For me, anyway, episode 6 has emotional resonance. It has character turns and character decisions that are very important. Already I've seen 5 episodes, which are great. I was hopeful, but I'm still was very pleased with the way it came out. And we'll see if the people at home are equally pleased.
We shall.
It's a great finale. Should we break it down?
Let's do it. It's such an interesting place that we find Dunk at, right? Where he won, and everybody but him is basically really excited. Certainly everybody who survived from his side.
Yeah, everyone who's
right?
not dead.
Lord
seems very
Lionel.
happy.
Lord
Yes.
Lionel. Raymond, the recently wed Raymond Fossaway.
Yeah, he's riding high, huh?
They're loving life. Meanwhile, Duncan is like, what have I done? What have I done?
You mentioned Lionel. We listened to some of that at the top of the show. Let's listen more fully to. This is the part where Lionel
is a great
yells.
clip.
Yeah, it's really good. It's just listen to it.
You could come with me.
Yeah, we'll hunt and hawk and sail, make merry.
I'll sharpen that iron of yours so you don't make such a grand fool of yourself next time.
Have you ever been to Tarth?
The man is dying, my lord.
What?
His wounds, they have mortified it. It's beyond my abilities.
Oh, the others fucking girl me. Beyond your... An itchy arsehole is beyond your abilities, my friend. Be gone, witch. Fuck off with you.
Yes, my lord. At once.
Cunt. It's fine. You're fine. He's a terrible maester.
I love that.
It's so good.
It really is so great. And honestly, a great offer. I mean, Dunk has got some really great options available to him at this point.
It's true.
He's got Prince Makar saying, hey, why don't you come to the vacation castle and hang out, and you could get some martial training from some of the best knights in the business. And you get Lord Lionel saying, come to Storm's End. We can hunt and hawk and sail, and it's a party all the time.
You don't have to sleep under a tree.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And Dunk, meanwhile, cannot seem to enjoy it.
No, he's wallowing pretty hard at this point. I do have to say, I would also watch the Lionel Dunk TV show.
I would watch that. I would watch just the Lionel TV show.
Just putting that out there.
I mean, we heard Lionel's speech about Baelor at the top.
Yeah.
And I have to say,
Yeah.
it swayed me a little bit. In particular, because putting myself in the boots of somebody from this culture, he did kind of try to cheat the gods a little bit. It was a little bit of a fugazi. The King's Guards couldn't strike him.
Right.
And
yeah, there's a little loophole.
there was a little loophole there. And from the perspective of someone who is a native to this culture, I could see how you would perceive that as trying to cheat the gods and getting your due.
And yeah, I feel like that's a perspective Lionel would have, but not Dunk.
Yes,
You
Dunk
know?
is like, oh man, what have I done?
Yeah. Which is not an invalid response to what happened either,
Well, what do you think about what Lord Lionel said about Baelor?
I think Lionel is not wrong. I could also see that from Dunk's point of view, that stuff is kind of irrelevant because the ultimate outcome is Baelor's dead and he died to help this rando dude named Dunk. And that's going to sit on him, like that's going to weigh heavy.
Yeah, he seemed like he would have been a decent king from all outward appearances. Yeah. And instead, he's getting burned on the funeral pyre. Let's listen to the clip of Baelor's funeral at which Prince Valar, Baelor's son, wonders why things turned out this way.
He was still young. He had in him to be a great king. The greatest since Aegon the Dragon. Why would the gods take him and leave you?
I've wondered the same.
So, Jason, I think this is maybe obvious, but just to really be clear, and maybe this is partly just because the point of view is so narrow from Dunk.
Right.
Realm-wise, losing Baelor is a huge deal, right?
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal politically because it throws the stability of the realm into doubt. Every major war that has happened in Westeros has happened because there is some argument about who comes next. And so anytime you suddenly have to switch plans like this, you're risking war. It's huge. It's a huge event with major stakes. It's pretty significant that we're talking about the teetering Targaryens and you're seeing various characters openly hope for a day when the Targaryens are gone. And here is Baelor's funeral pyre being lit by a mere torch. The dragons are gone. It used to be a dragon would do that. And now it's just a guy with a torch.
Well, and it's pretty clear to me at this point. I mean, Dunk pretty much says as much that it's difficult for him also to wrap his head around the fact that that the gods chose him over Baelor, essentially.
Come on, Valar. What am I, Duncan the warrior? Go ask a Septon. Well, I don't know. The gods they're mysterious. They move in mysterious ways. But you're right. I mean, it's a manifestation of how intense his guilt must be that he goes to this funeral. And on the other, it feels pretty brazen to me. I don't know. I would not have the guts to show up here.
Yeah, sit in the car outside if you have to, but don't go in.
Come on. Yeah, I pay my respects, but when everybody has left.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's like a vibe shift once you walk into that room, right?
Most definitely.
Well, there is at least one person who isn't mad at Dunk, and that is our guy, little Raymond. Let's listen to the really sweet scene between the two of them.
You've come from Baelor's funeral. I can't believe you went.
Thought I owed it to him. Everybody blames me for his death, don't they? I don't.
I love how many hugs there are in this show.
It's a many-hugged show.
It's really good.
What a wonderful friendship they have.
Yeah.
And Raymond has jumped from, a mere squire who was unsure of his prowess now to this person who's going to be part of a historic moment. And it's going to be talked about for a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think of Dunk gifting Sweetfoot to Raymond?
Oh my gosh, such a sweet moment. Well, initially Raymond gets Sweetfoot out of horse jail, right?
And yes.
Not horse
out of
jail.
Hawk.
Out of Hawk,
so to speak.
Yeah, out of the horse pawn shop.
Out of the pawn shop. And what a wonderful just gesture from Raymond.
Yes. No, I mean, it's one lovely gesture after another. Raymond getting the horse and then Dunk saying, you know what? An orchard would suit her better.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
And after that, Maekar calls for Dunk.
Yes.
And I think you get the feeling going into this this can go any of several ways, and many of them are very bad.
Yes.
What did you make of Maekar's offer to Dunk? Dunk's second really good offer to my ear in this episode, which is, hey, come to Summerhall, which is like the the Targaryen summer palace, and get trained up. Egg will be your squire. Sounded pretty good to me.
It does sound like a pretty good offer. I was surprised that Dunk said no to that.
Me too. Why do you think he did?
I think he will always feel indebted to Maekar, and I think he will always have to confront what happened in a way that he probably doesn't want to at this point in his life.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And as he said, done with princes.
That's a telling line too, isn't it?
They move at a stratosphere that he's, I think, wisely judged that he would not be comfortable at. I mean, listen, I get his point that he's a hedge knight. This is how he lives. This is how he learned the knightly arts from Ser Arlan. This is how he learned to be a humble knight. At the same time, listen, we saw in the scene when Ser Arlan was letting the hog breathe that they were sleeping in some sort of stone cabin at some point. So, you could be indoors occasionally, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could have a little cave
and then
hut.
go out and camp, like go walk around.
Yeah, you have a little home base.
Yeah,
and then
come back to it.
Oh, I'm still thinking about letting the hog breathe, Jason. I'm very upset. But yes, clearly there are different versions of sleeping under trees or in ditches.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly Egg seems betrayed at this point. Don't you think?
He definitely feels like, I thought we were going to stand by each other.
Yeah.
Like I stood by you when my family was against you.
Yes. Yes.
I stood by you when you were accused, even though it was my fault. And and now you're going to abandon me like this. Yeah. I thought we were a knight and a squire.
That's what he's saying when he says, you're not the knight I thought you were, right? That like, I can't believe you're, like, I thought we were in this together. Yeah. And you're just going to leave?
After all of this. Yeah. After all this carnage, and now you're going to walk away? I get his heartbreak.
Yes, totally. 1,000%.
Speaking of Ser Arlan and the lessons that Dunk learned, let's listen to the scene in which Dunk asks the very important question of Ser Arlan, why he never knighted him.
Why did you never knight me? Did you think I'd leave you? I wouldn't have. There was something else. Sir? Sir? Sir?
Ser Arlan not doing well at this juncture. Sir.
Yeah, a real Harry Potter and Hagrid's Arms, Deathly Hallows vibe from Ser Arlan, but also like ambiguous.
Yeah.
So what do you think? He knighted him or he didn't knight him?
I don't think he knighted him, and I don't think it matters.
Whoa! Whoa!
I feel like we've talked around this a lot, but we haven't actually.
Oh my God, let's talk about this, because I think he knighted him.
Yeah.
And I understand that it doesn't matter part, but I actually think it kind of does, because.
So you disagree?
Dunk has been so honest, has been so sincere, has been so dogged in the pursuit of his heartfelt beliefs that if you find out that those heartfelt beliefs are the fruit of a lie, I'm not saying it makes him a bad guy. I think I think it just makes him a much more complex guy than we were giving him credit for.
Yes. I mean, the way you've set it up, that is in opposition to his moral code. But I don't think it's a lie. I think I think he is the best example of a knight that we have in this show.
But he didn't get his license.
But
he didn't do his...
like, do you have to go to film school? You know what I mean? It's
I mean, yes, right. Yeah.
And I guess to be a knight, arguably the oath means it is something where you need a license. But I feel like he is a knight in his heart.
I don't disagree with that. I really don't disagree with that. And I agree with the take that he is a true knight, like to the bone.
Yeah, and I think this season, especially these early episodes, really are like he's trying it on for size.
I agree. But in your reading of it, did he not lie a dozen times to various people about it in very complex ways then? Like, it's not just like, oh yeah, he knighted me. It's a whole thing about it, like Ser Arlan and
he never said he knighted him, right?
Yeah, I mean, he said he
said he squired to Ser Arlan.
Who knighted him?
Did he ever literally say that?
Yeah, he said it.
Okay, I mean, yeah.
He's trying to sign up, being like, yeah, I'm a knight.
I respect the game.
It's an interesting conversation. I agree with you that it doesn't matter, but I do think it makes him it gives another side to him. There's certainly another side to him if it is the case that he was not knighted.
Yeah, there is a complexity to it that I like.
And certainly we're meant to wonder.
So yeah, how is that set up in the books? In the novellas?
We're meant to wonder. We
are meant to wonder.
He talks about it much the same way.
Yeah.
But you never actually read it / see it.
Huh. That's a fun one.
It's fun, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
like it a lot. Another very intense scene is when Dunk kind of comes around to the idea of getting to hang with Egg some more, but his pitch is a little different to Maekar. Let's listen.
I thought you were done with princes.
Egg is no prince. Not yet. Might be he's better served away from castles and servants and...
His family?
If you would consent, I would bring him on the road with me. He'll learn to squire as I did. Sleep in inns, stables, now and again in the halls of some landed knight or lesser lordling. Maybe under a tree when we must.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a compelling pitch. From Maekar's perspective, right?
You just want to take my child and sleep outside a lot?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. And maybe he needs to sit with it after this conversation, but it does seem to me like an argument that Maekar might actually kind of come around on.
There's an acknowledgement on some level that Dunk has some points.
Yes.
That Maekar is kind of grappling with.
Yes.
It's just the totality of the isolation from his family and the nigh homelessness type of living situation that makes Maekar say no. But I agree with you. I think that there is I think that there's some leeway there. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, even the way Maekar says, away from his family.
Right.
It's like, you know this family. You're here.
Come on, you're
looking at it.
You get it.
You can't be completely, your brother just died because of all of this.
Yeah, come on.
You know, there are serious repercussions here, and you see them.
But of course, in a shocking reversal, Maekar Targaryen does change his mind. Just kidding. Egg slips away. And they talk about their lives together. Let's listen to that clip.
Where are we going, sir?
Don't know. Suppose we could go anywhere in the Seven Kingdoms, though I've never been to... What?
There are 9 kingdoms, sir.
Of what?
The realm.
Are you mad?
Is that relevant?
There are 7 kingdoms of the realm, boy. Everyone knows that.
Then everyone is wrong.
Do you want to clout in the ear?
Crownlands, Westlands, Stormlands, Riverlands, the Iron Islands, the North, the Reach, the Vale of Arryn, and Dawn.
No, but...
I've never been over the Red Mountains before. I hear they have good puppet shows in Dawn.
mind blower for Dunk
Oh
right
my
there.
God, yes. Oh, it's such a good scene.
Do you think they've learned anything from each other? Well, obviously, Dunk just learned that there are actually 9 kingdoms and not 7. We should point out that there were 7 kingdoms, but then the Targaryens came, and then so the Crownlands became the 8th, and then Dorne has only recently been added. So yes, now there are 9, but much like DC Puerto Rico, we're just going to, it would be like if DC and Puerto Rico came in and everybody was like, yeah, but 50 is such a round number.
Right.
Let's keep calling it the 50.
Yeah, that is a good note. I think Dunk and Egg have both learned a lot from each other at this point. I think, I love that Egg has this book learning that he can bring to the table. And I mean, yes, Dunk is not the most worldly, but he also knows how to like make camp under a tree for the night. And I'm just so excited to see where their adventures take them.
Let's go to our interview now with series creator Ira Parker.
Ira, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you again.
Hi, guys. It's very nice to be back.
In this episode, we're seeing a lot of emotional fallout from episode 5, obviously. One thing that I found really interesting that struck me with this finale particularly is like there are so many hugs. Which I find really sweet and was curious, like, were those in the script or did they just end up sort of coming naturally between folks just like over the course of this journey they went on together?
Some hugs were scripted. Others just look, we like when people bring a sense of themselves to this role, and I think at the end everybody's just feeling huggy. You survived something that's going to be forever known and written and sung about in the realm, and you just can't help but, thank the gods that you're still alive.
Yeah. I love the way that this episode starts with, jazz music and Lionel kind of regarding Dunk as Dunk recovers under the tree. I'd love to hear about that and just your take on Lionel. I think one of the things that struck us is Lionel is so unlike any other character I think we've seen in this world before, in that he's a very powerful man, but he's also just like a chill guy. He's the bro.
He's the bro. That's what I was going to use too.
Oh, man. No, bro is not what we want here. Oh, God. No, look.
I mean, Westeros bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I also think he's also just a quite intelligent human being, although he probably wouldn't tell anyone that. He wouldn't rub it in anyone's face. He sees a lot of moving parts. And look, I love that about him because it just means that he can just have a lot more fun with people at their expense and, whatnot. The opening shot is my favorite. When I was going through the dailies, it was just something that I found that really struck me that Ser Arlan had done. It was so funny, just the makeup of it, the way Lionel's expression, it's beautiful. I feel like I'm in a trunk in a Tarantino movie or something. Look, we tried to have as much intention as possible when we were putting this thing together, that it felt like we had a serious point of view. And that's how the music and that's how that shot sort of opened up. It allowed us to, the first shot of the series is in this long shot, just holding on Dunk in a, equally maybe sort of miserable situation, although very different to this. And it felt right to bring it back around, to do something long and hopefully funny as well too. Hopefully people will appreciate. Obviously, some very serious things have just happened at the end of episode 5, and we wanted to bring people back into a world that told them it's okay. We're not going to be sad and somber. Something serious has happened, yes, but we still have our sense of humor about us, as I think is very true to life, to be completely honest.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It is interesting to think about how many tonal shifts happen over the course of this season.
Again, to be completely honest, this is all about Dunk's and Dunk's POV.
Speaking of Dunk, I mean, he certainly has had quite a trajectory over these 6 episodes. When we talked to you for episode 1, you said he had a long way to go before being a true knight. I'm curious where you think he is on that journey right now, as at episode 6.
The very beginning.
So at this point, you still would not call him a knight.
A true knight? No. A knight, yes. This is
Okay.
his trial by fire. This is what he's had to do in order to land this dream of his. He's had to almost die and be spit out the other end. It's sort of like what he had to do to become a squire.
Yeah.
He had to nearly kill himself. He was just chasing down this thing, and all he did was just keep getting up, just one foot in front of the other. And it eventually got him what he, what he was looking for. And same thing with being a knight. A lot of parallels in that. But look, to be honest, I think this is a lifelong journey for him. It's a lifetime of putting these things together, and at the end, you look back and you say, what was that? Was that a life? That's Dunk is on the very, very first step of his journey. It was a hard one, and it's tough, and it's not to discount how difficult that is to get your, foot in the door. But that's what he's done here. Now he has to actually go do the hard work.
Do you think Dunk has considered this a victory?
No, because he's. That's a really good question. Because on the one hand, he was just getting back to neutral. He was, not trying to get involved in a trial of 7 and fight for his life. He didn't want any of this to happen to him. But on the other hand, he has now gone through, as I said, his trial by fire. He has. It certainly can't be taken as a loss. He won this battle. Everybody knows he won. The gods, have spoken, and to a certain extent, that's why he can maybe be a little bit bolder in front of someone like Makar, because he was right. He did it, and everybody knows that now. So he's strangely untouchable, like in this one moment of time. I think he'd have a real hard time chalking this up to a win, though. It's a pretty brutal way to characterize that.
Let's talk about Egg. We see him really kind of flash the Targaryen ruthlessness in a moment of real darkness, when it certainly seems that if his father, Makar, was not in the room, he might have killed his brother Arion.
That may be that moment between Egg and Makar, I think, might be my favorite moment of the season. Sam and Dexter, they really nailed it. And, Saradina directed the shit out of that scene. Look, I think the big question for Dunk, and, what drives him back to Egg ultimately, is this idea that Egg's lot is not yet decided. And part of the reason why we allowed ourselves to go into Egg's POV, while we don't ever, tread in the POVs of the lords and ladies, kings and queens, Egg's future is undecided. What he is going to be, he is still moldable clay. And so it's still allowable as a child. And so, you could see how quickly, with the wrong influences around you, life can go in a very drastically different direction. And Dunk steps up in the way that Ser Arlan did, which is reluctantly, maybe out of a sense of duty, a sense of goodness. Maybe if we were to go back further and do the Ser Arlan of Pennytree spinoff, which I would love to do as a young man, we would see that somebody did this for Ser Arlan back in the day. I think there's a lot of what's passed on between father and son, and from generation to generation, both good and bad, that we, see in this final episode here.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, I think, a huge theme across all of the shows, and you think about Egg as a Targaryen, and I don't know, I think it is kind of hard not to ask like a nature versus nurture question around it, just because, to your point, sure, he is clay that can be molded, but also it's still Targaryen clay, right?
If they just got rid of all that inbreeding, man.
Right. Uh-huh.
Probably be
I mean, I have a couple other notes, but yeah, that's a big one for
Yeah.
sure.
Big one.
Yeah. Look, I think Baylor was made from that same clay and showed us that it is certainly possible to be a good man, to be, and somebody would respect as even as a king. I think obviously, George has made a big thing about how sometimes good men don't make good kings.
Yeah.
But it's like anything else. It's just a combination, and it's a lucky combination sometimes.
Yeah.
Right person at the right time just, pushes you in a certain direction, just helps you out through a tough part of your life, and it changes the whole trajectory of what you're going to be.
One of my favorite things about this episode and this series as a book reader has been the way it kind of reframed Maekar for me a little bit. He's a very steely, stern, not quite mean guy, but definitely not someone you'd want to raise issues with easily. And in the show, it's clear that that is an outgrowth of the fact that this guy's he's a father of 3 sons who are all over the place. One's an alcoholic, the other one's a violent near psychopath, and the other one just keeps running away. He's dealing with all these things, and he just doesn't have time for the little things. Talk to me about those performances, because I think him deciding to give his last son to Dunk to raise and rear and steer in the ways of knighthood is really an amazing emotional decision from him.
Well, that's an interesting question. Have we watched all the way through to the final scene?
Yeah, yes. Well, yes, but the initial meeting is basically like, hey.
Yeah, I mean, he makes that pitch first.
He makes the pitch first before he realizes that it's going to be the ditches. It's going to be the sleeping in the ditches. It's going to be the eating the hardtack. And that's when he's out. But initially he's in.
Yeah, yeah.
That initial pitch to me was always actually maybe not the best side of Maekar, which was the Maekar trying to take back some control. This hedge knight has just, scored a victory on him, a big one, a very, public one. And him saying, okay, fine, you come here, you'll come to Summerhall, you'll be one of my men, is basically like saying, I will put my foot on you and, and we'll finish your own training. And Dunk, I think very rightly, pushes back at that and says, I've seen how these things are done up close now. I've met you and your family. I know a little bit more than I did before. And that's not how this is going to go. That's not what I want. And so he leaves. And when he comes back and he says to Maekar, after realizing that maybe Arian actually had more of a chance, I don't know if that's actually true or not, or how much Darren's just, fucking with Dunk.
Right.
But if Arian, was a product of this system, of this sort of, cast iron press that, forces its boys to become, something not wonderful in the world.
Yeah.
And Maekar doesn't agree to that. But what we do get from that, the conclusion of that scene is just how conflicted he is about what's right. That obviously he was brought up in a very specific way. And he has been a father in a very specific way. And now the results sort of speak for themselves.
So yeah, when did you decide to have sort of 2 different endings? Because I mean, as we're kind of talking around, we see Dunk and Egg, they're like essentially riding off into the sunset together. You get the title card, Knight of the 9 Kingdoms. And then all of a sudden, we've got our cut to realizing that Egg snuck off like the little scamp that he is. Was that always like how you wanted to structure that reveal?
I just think it's funny.
It's perfect.
And
It's great. It's
you know,
great.
it fits within his character. Obviously, what we know about it.
Yes.
You know, he ran off before, so he runs off now. We never really break POV like that, but I figured after the credits had rolled, we were allowed to have one private scene with with the Lord, give ourselves just a little out for something that's fun or funny. But I can actually wrap my head around both versions of Makar saying no and Makar saying yes, which I think is just a wonderful position, and hopefully the audience will appreciate that. In the book, obviously, you know, things are a lot more tight around that situation, and Egg shows up pretty immediately after the conversation in Dunk's camp. But you never know for certain. It didn't feel like we were totally going against, you know, it's possible that Egg was just, you know, hiding off in the bushes the whole time and, you know, skirted in, and Makar actually never said, you know, that was okay. You know, then anyway, this is how we create on this show, by taking very little thin threads and trying to run with them. That's the best way to write.
When we first spoke with you, we talked about the fact that it's unclear whether Ser Arlan actually ever knighted Dunk, or at least we don't see it. And you said, well, does it matter? Now at the end of the season, does it matter?
No, hopefully even less. Because he's done all the things the knight's supposed to do. Everything else is just, I don't know, noise, details. I mean, actually, that was one of my favorite scenes. The end, and Danny Webb, who plays Ser Arlan, just did such a wonderful job with that, with his dying scene.
That must have been fun to film. Just like,
I love that it's still, you know, it's still unconfirmed. It's possible that Dunk was knighted right after that moment. He just actually got out a sword and did it, and it's possible that he, you know, died pretty immediately after that.
I have thoughts about it. It's interesting, for sure.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
No, tell me.
I think you're right in the sense that Dunk's exactly the ideal of what a knight should be. At the same time, I think the fact that we don't know, and then it's at least possible that he lied about it, adds a fascinating bit of complexity to a guy who feels very straightforward in the way he approaches everything. And I think that's really interesting.
Look, and then that is definitely another theme of season 2, which is, you know, Dunk learning to live within the gray of this world. Because he can't get by any other way. But it's great when his black and white vision of what it means to be a knight is sort of constantly tested and changing.
Ira, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I know you're in the middle of production right now, and thank you so much for an incredible season.
Yes, thank you.
No, I love talking to you guys. This is a lot of fun.
Wonderful as always to hear from Ira.
Yes, as always. He's wonderful.
Yeah. And now it's time for the final MVK of the season. Most valuable knight.
Gosh, I can't believe we're here.
Greta, who you got?
I think I'm going to pick Raymond for this one.
Raymond Fossaway?
Yes, because the hug was so good.
Big hug.
And he got Sweetfoot, and I just think that's all lovely and good and nice.
Wow. Okay. I like that. That's a good one. I'm going to go with Makar Targaryen.
Nice. That was my next pick.
To your point, he's a stern guy, but he's been through a lot of heartbreak in this season, and there's depths to him that I think were not evident. And certainly as a book reader, he is brought to life in a way that you feel for him here. And he's lost his son again. Son is in the wind, and so I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
But a lot of responsibility on his shoulders now, so Makar Targaryen.
Yeah, I think he's doing some really tough math.
Very tough math.
Well, gosh, Jason, I can't believe we're like at the end of this season
already.
It flew by. Those episodes were wonderful. How are you feeling now that we're at the end of this leg of the journey.
It's a little bittersweet, to be honest with you. It's so nice to be in this world.
Yes, I agree.
And especially in this way, where we're exploring a smaller corner of it and seeing just how much life, how much drama, how much emotion there is there.
And how much sweetness.
Yeah.
The hugs.
Yeah, completely other tonal palette.
Yes. Yeah, I think that is a real pleasure. All right, that is it for this episode and for this season. Of course, that means now you can watch all 6 episodes of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms on HBO Max. We will be back to talk about another season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms when that is ready. But before that, this summer, we're going to be back to discuss House of the Dragon.
Woo! Also, if you are dying for more Game of Thrones content, well, my friend, you're in luck because there's a mobile game called Game of Thrones Conquest. The game lets you enter the world of Westeros, build your own house, raise armies, and claim your seat on the Iron Throne. You can download Game of Thrones Conquest today in the Apple or Google App Store, and HBO Max subscribers get special rewards. So go to gotconquest.com/podcast and claim yours today.
Yes, and if you like what you are hearing and watching, don't forget to leave a rating and review on your podcast player of choice. You can find us on the Game of Thrones social media handles, and you can also watch us on HBO Max. Yes, you can watch us on HBO Max. You can follow me on Instagram at Greta M. Johnson. You can read my newsletter on Substack. It's called Gretagram. And you can listen to my podcast. It is called Happy to Be Here.
Follow me on Instagram at NETW3RK and listen to my podcast, X-Ray Vision, wherever you get your podcast. The official Game of Thrones podcast, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, is produced by HBO in collaboration with Same Boat Studios. This podcast is hosted by Greta Johnson
and Jason Concepcion, who also produces the show. Our executive producers for Same Boat Studios are Gabrielle Lewis and Barry Finkel. Our senior producer is Ben Goldberg. The show is mixed by Hannes Brown, and our video editor is Stefano Sanchez. And In-Sung Huang is our digital content producer.
Special thanks to Michael Gluckstead, Allison Cohen-Sorokach, and Kenya Reyes from the HBO Max podcast team.
Thanks for listening and for joining us on this journey. And don't forget, anyone can be a knight. I'm going to stand by it.
I just need to see those credentials.